What's going on, guys? Ray Yerg's back here with another episode of the Third and Long Pick 6 show. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you guys are having a great night. Hope you guys had a great weekend in the NFL. Cashing some tickets. 2-3-1 overall for us this week. So a little bit difficult, but trying to get back on track. And all we can say is just keep grinding. Let's move forward. And we'll take it from there. Quick recap. Go over a couple of things this week. Before we get into that, don't forget to follow me at The Real Ray Yergs on Twitter and on YouTube, where most of my content will be. Make sure you guys subscribe, like, and hit that bell so you get notifications of when I'll be dropping new content. Also, don't forget to check out, if you notice, make sure you give me a comment. I did change the logo, changed up the page a little bit, so spruce things up a little bit. Hope you guys enjoy it. I like the new logo, so make sure you drop a comment. Tell me what you think, all right? We'll get right into it real quick. Bills, I said last week I went back to the well with the Bills and the over, and it kind of looked like it was going to get there at some point, but it stalled again in the second half. It was 2 weeks in a row where the Bills just stalled on getting plays, on creating points in the second half. So we take the loss there, but I think that well's dried up. Not really so sure that I am going to be going back to that well again. So couldn't get that one there. But was the play call right for the Ravens on 4th and goal by not taking the points, or going for it and essentially not making it and losing the game? Did that cost them the game? There's been a lot of talk back and forth. A lot of teams, a lot of players think that they should have took the points there. Listen, I personally think that was the right call on the 4th and goal. You're right down on the goal line, and you got to be aggressive against a team like the Bills. You got to keep your foot on the gas. It was 20-20 at that point, and there was still a lot of time left on the clock, believe it or not. It was just maybe a bad play call for Lamar Jackson. Didn't really read the play right. Backed out like 10 yards. A back-footed throw. It was an awful play call, but to me it was the right call. You gotta keep your foot on the gas at that point against the Bills, because the Bills ended up driving down the field. Yes, they get the interception in the end zone, which essentially put them at the 20 instead of on the goal line. But they drove down the field and they played it right, where they took the time off the clock and just kicked the field goal to win it. But they would have essentially, they brought it all the way down, I think, within the 10-yard line or something. And essentially, they probably would have ended up scoring a touchdown anyway. So at that point, the Bills would have probably lost that game if they drove down with the touchdown. So, there's a lot of hearsay and everything, but to me, it was the right call for the Ravens. Got to keep your foot on the gas. Got to be aggressive at all times. Not so much conservative in different situations. Maybe against another team it might have been different, but against top teams like that, got to keep your foot on the gas. We had the Browns. Another lead blown, and that costed them another win. That's essentially 2 wins this season that the Browns gave up. They think about it, with the blown leads late in games, they could be sitting at 4-0. And my prediction with the Browns would look better and better, but now it's kind of like 50-50, but they do still sit in first place. But the late INT by Brissett, penalties, it was kind of a mess at the end. They did have their chance to at least tie the game and go into overtime, but essentially the interception costed them the game. So they do look strong. I still like where I stand with the Browns. So if you can find different or better prices for them to win the division, keep an eye on that going forward, seeing where they land. Might still be able to get some value going forward. Cardinals heading to the Panthers. That was one of my picks as well. Dominant second half for the Cardinals. Kyler Murray continues to razzle-dazzle everybody. Boy, he really is fun to watch. Still very poor on read and defensive, but when he moves out of the pocket and creates plays, that's where his strong suit is. And it showed in the second half on that game where they just dominated and cruised along to the victory, getting plus 1.5 on the road. Mayfield, listen, Colin Cowherd just continues to always get on Mayfield, and rightfully so. I do think that Colin should probably cut it out with Mayfield now. I don't think there's much left to talk about. I think we all see it. We all know. He's just not the quarterback, and the Browns made the right decision. Carolina, they're struggling with him. He really heard it from the fans on Sunday. Where does that put Matt Rule, though, going forward? Does that put him in the category that he may be on the hot seat? Is he going to be the first coach to be fired? I think the Panthers had a lot more expectations this year. Excuse me. And they're just not living up to them. Mayfield is just not a top-tier quarterback. Never has been, really. Even coming right out of Oklahoma. So where does Matt Rule stand? Is he going to be coaching college soon? That's where a lot of the rumors are. I think he is on the edge of the hot seat. I think he's approaching the hot seat. He's got like one cheek on, one cheek off, and there's some fire starting to brew underneath the seat. That's where I think Matt Rule is. I don't think he will last throughout the season. That's just my take right now. Even though Sam Darnold is maybe coming back, but there was reports today that he's not ready to play this week. I think it's just smoke and mirrors with that, so don't let that fool you. We'll see where that goes forward. Continuing on with my picks, we had the Chiefs also on Sunday Night Football. They roll the Buccaneers, and Mahomes is just the best quarterback in the league. Every week he just continues to amaze me and others in different ways on his ability to make plays, score touchdowns, all of the above. I told you with the analysis of the pick, I think that the Chiefs last week was a bad loss against my Colts, and they made up for it this week as to what I said, that they were looking ahead to this Buccaneers game. Super Bowl rematch, first time they played each other since that Super Bowl, and I think that that's where it was. I think that they stooped down to the Colts level, and they underestimated themselves probably, which costed them that victory. But they come back strong this week. Big time win on the road in Tampa. Bad look for the Bucs right now. They did put points on the board, finally, but not enough. And 2 straight home losses for the Buccaneers. Where does that put them? And again, more news coming out from Tom Brady's camp with divorce lawyers for Gisele Bündchen and Tom Brady. A lot of personal stuff going on with him. So keep an eye on that personal stuff going forward. I think it plays a factor as to where Tom Brady's head is going to be at in the coming weeks. So I think that's big this year. A lot of people don't like that kind of analysis, and I tend to agree with that. But mentally, you need to be able to be prepared. And if you're not mentally prepared to play each week, and you got these big time personal issues outside going on, it will play a factor. He's human, and that's where we're at. So we'll see what happens there. One other side note with the Chiefs. Again, I'm going to harp on this again. Tyreek Hill, listen, phenomenal player, terrific wide receiver, and is a great fit with the Dolphins, and was a great fit with the Chiefs. But I think the Chiefs making the right decision there with letting Tyreek Hill go. I said this before, it opens up the field a lot more for the Chiefs and Mahomes to make plays, and that continues to show true on that part. The offense just looks phenomenal right now, better than what they had with Tyreek Hill, and the data shows it. So, dangerous team going forward. Colts offense struggles again. Yet I'm gonna, I don't even know why I'm talking about my team, but they stink. I've said this for weeks, and finally, a player on the team comes out and says what everyone is thinking, that quote, that is the QB carousel. We have new guys every year coming in. He's had a new quarterback every season since he's been on the team. That was Hines. And that's true. And there's just no stability, nothing to build on. No, you got to work every week for like the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season to get something going. By that time, it's just too late. You're grinding too much. You're always playing from behind. Colts made a bad decision. Matt Ryan probably won't be here again after this season, and Frank Reich probably will end up getting fired, unfortunately, because I really like him. But finally, a Colts player comes out and says what everybody is thinking about this team. So good for him. Kudos to him. Hopefully that lights a fire under their ass. Packers prevail against the Pats in overtime. Kind of an ugly game. The Patriots really had the Packers number. If it wasn't for a few bad calls, let's say, and not letting Zappe come in and make the plays that he needed to, and playing a little bit too conservative to try and get the victory, I think that they would have actually got the win if they didn't play so conservative. But Packers ended up prevailing, and great game. Great game. The Packers head on the road this week. They're playing in London against the Giants, so that's going to be an interesting game there. I may have another pick in the London game, as I did this past week when we pushed with the Vikings and the Saints. But stay tuned on that. We'll see what happens. Saturdays are the picks show, so make sure you tune in on Saturdays to get Week 5 picks. Might be a pick in that game. Pats sitting at 1-3. Said that before earlier in the year that they're not a good team, and it's going to be really tough for them to going forward. Not really seeing them compete. They'll be competitive in games, but don't see them having the season they did last year win-wise. They'll probably be below 500, and we'll see what happens at the end of the season for the Pats. Pat fans are all quiet, though. I don't hear anything about the Pats anymore, and that's a blessing in itself. Tua situation. Listen, Tua is out this week, as everyone mostly notices, but a lot more going on in that situation. I like to see a little bit more of the NFLPA investigation to see what they come up with. The doctors did get fired. That gave them the okay to put Tua in. So, tough situation. Bad look. Real bad look for the Dolphins. So it's going to be... they're going to be... not just them, but a lot of the teams going forward are going to be under the microscope as to whether or not they should be putting players in when they're in concussion protocol or anything. I feel like some things might be changing with those rules depending on what comes out of the investigation, but really bad look for the NFL. Got to feel bad for Tua in that situation. That was probably one of the scariest things I've seen on the NFL field. Listen, we've all seen some nasty things. We've seen ankles turn, legs blown out, all that kind of stuff, and that is all, to me, normal. But when you see a guy that gets hit, clean hit, the head hit the ground, and the fingers, and the nervous reaction, I guess, from that, it was very scary. A lot of people thought, like, well, what just happened? What's going on here? So, bad situation, really bad for the Dolphins. But Teddy Bridgewater will be stepping in. So we'll see where they can try and find some victories. I think Tua is probably, as not just this week, but maybe another week or two, I think he'll end up being out as well. One more thing before we get into the power rankings. Don't forget, last week was the release of my power rankings, and that is coming up in just a second. One last topic I had that I wanted to touch base on. Jags can't hold a lead against the best team in the league, the Eagles. Tough for them. They looked good. They came out real strong against the Eagles, but they couldn't hold on. Doug Peterson could not get revenge on his old team. Bad weather and all. But it was a good showing for the Jags, and bad day for Trevor Lawrence. So we'll see where they go on moving forward. I still like them. I think that they're playing much better than they were with Urban Meyer as coach, obviously, and that's given. But I like to see. But this was a tough test for them. This was a real test for them, and they just couldn't get it done. If they ended up getting Meyer, if they could get that victory against the Eagles, we'd be talking a lot more about the Jags as to how good that they are. But when you can't bite, you can't play with the big dogs, then that's what happens. All right, moment you've been waiting for. Power rankings, they did make a change this week. I have Eagles staying at number 1. How can you not put them at number 1 with 4-0? Only undefeated team left in the league. Chiefs moving up 2 spots from last week to number 2 in the power rankings, coming off a big road victory against the Buccaneers. As I stated, they were playing down to the Colts level in my mind, looking at this game, and they prevailed. Bills staying at even at 3 for me. Didn't really move the needle there with the victory over the Ravens, in my opinion, since they had to play from behind. So, staying at number 3 for me. Number 4, Packers moving up 1 spot. Even though it looked ugly, I am putting them up to number 4. So they have moved up in my power rankings with the overtime victory against the Pats. And coming in at number 5 is painful for me to say because I am not a fan of this team. But it's hard to say. If you can guess who it is, kudos to you. Leave it in the comments. But I will say it. And I've been harping on them for a couple weeks, saying that their defense is what kept them in this game. And the defense continues to what keep them in games. Cowboys come in at number 5 for my power rankings. Painful for me to say because of how much I dislike the Cowboys. But they look strong. They have proven me wrong of my analysis when Dak went down. So the defense has prevailed. Cooper Rush does look good. And the offense does look pretty good at times. Probably not as good as they would be with Dak on the field. But maybe not, because Dak might be making more mistakes. So we don't know. But the defense to me is what's keeping them strong. Sitting at 3-1, a game behind them. The Eagles putting the Cowboys at number 5, making their debut in my power rankings. Dolphins did slip just below the top 5, so I do not have them in the top 5 coming off a loss against the Bengals. So they are just below. Teams to look out for that are on the rise, in my opinion. And these are not teams that are close to the top 5, just keep in mind. But the Titans, they looked good the last 2 weeks. I like what they're doing. To me, they're the favorites to win the division. So they're a top 15 team. Bengals, big win against the Dolphins. Also a top 15 team, but they're on the rise. So I like these 2 teams where they're playing right now. You know, starting to settle in, get those couple victories over the last couple of weeks. And the third team on my teams on the rise are the Vikings. Looked really good against the Saints. They're in my top 10, not quite in the top 5 yet. So we'll see where they go moving forward. Real quick, thanks for tuning in again, guys. Really appreciate it. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, and hit that bell at The Real Ray Yergs on YouTube and Twitter. We'll be back on Saturday with Week 5 picks. Enjoy the rest of your week. No playing the Thursday night game. Colts are at Denver. I'm going to be enjoying it as a fan, watching them lose again, most likely. But enjoy the week. We'll see you on Saturday.